Welcome to a video on angles. The first thing we need to do is just define what an angle is and figure out how we can describe it. So an angle, if we look at our definition right here, an angle is formed by two rays that have the same endpoint. So we have a picture right here. We have ray AB and we have ray AC. Their endpoint they have in common. They're going in different directions. And so this is what a picture would look like. We call the rays are the sides of the angle. The endpoint that they have in common is called the vertex. So you have some of these definitions right here. We need to talk a little bit about how we name them. If it's just one angle in the picture, we can call it just by the vertex, the point that is the vertex. So we use this little symbol right here to talk about an angle, and then it's angle A. But if there's more than one angle, we have to be a little careful. So a lot of times we will name it with the points that we use to name the rays themselves. So angle BAC or angle CAB would be appropriate. The important thing is that the vertex has to be in the middle. So BAC or CAB, you kind of form maybe the L shape as you name those 3 points. Or we can name it just with a number, so like angle 1. That's certainly appropriate as well. So 3 different ways. This is probably the best one because it's more specific, but it is a little bit tedious to come up with that. Okay, we have the interior of an angle. Generally, that's well, we'll kind of use some of these terms later, but it's a smaller part is going to be the interior, and then the exterior is on the outside. So let's just let's talk a little bit about how we might name some angles in this general area right here. So first, I'm going to jot down maybe a few questions. Can we think of another way to name angle 1? What's another way to name angle 1? So it's the thing that's on the left side here. We could use the 3-letter system. So angle J, M, K are 3 points that kind of surround it. M is the vertex of that angle. So we said J, M, K. We could just switch those letters around. Okay, we could say angle K, M, J. Again, M is in the middle, so that's kind of important. That's the vertex. It has to be in the middle. Those are really the only options we have for that. Let's look at a different angle here. Let's do this in red. What's another name for angle? LMK. So this is an angle symbol. That was an L right there. LMK. Well, we could, again, just switch the 3 letters around. First of all, let's look at what that is. Here's L, there's M, there's K. So it's the angle on the right side. So we are certainly allowed to just switch the 3 letters around. So that'd be K, M, L. Okay, M is still in the middle of that grouping of 3 because that's the vertex. Or we could name it by a number like angle 2. Okay, now the one thing I want to point out for this one, we never used angle M. And angle M is not appropriate here because there are so many possibilities for angle M. It could be angle 1, it could be angle 2, it could be the combined large angle, angle JML. So in this picture, we cannot, we cannot use, come on, there we go, that idea because there's too many angles that could work that way. Okay, so hopefully the idea of naming angles makes sense in this little chunk of the video. Going to erase everything a second. There we go. Okay, if we scroll up a little bit, we're going to talk about the idea of a degree. A degree is how we kind of talk about the opening of an angle. And the basic idea of a degree is we have a point. We go all the way around a circle. From here, this could be split up into 360 equal parts. Or if you just went halfway, it'd be 180 equal parts, just halfway around the circle. So let's just look at the entire circle. Obviously, I don't have 360 lines there, but if I did that, one of those openings, the measure maybe right there, that would be 1 degree if there really were 360. So we're kind of measuring the openness of this from the center circle, measuring the openness kind of right there. One of those would be 1 degree. So if we look at this picture right here, that's 62 of those stacked together. That kind of makes sense. If we just round it to 60, 60 of these kind of lined up all together 6 of those would get us about 360 degrees, a complete circle, a complete turn around here. So for this picture, what I want you to note is the way that we talk about 62 degrees, the angle here is angle A, but when we talk about the measure, how the distance or a number that's related to this, we put a little m in front. So that's the measure of angle A is 62 degrees, and that's just a little notation thing. Okay, so let's just talk about how we might measure angles. We use a tool called a protractor to measure our angles, and you can see that we have an angle listed right here. Let me erase this again. Okay, we have an angle kind of listed right here, and the way that we use a protractor, we're going to do this in class at some point, but if this is the vertex of the angle, every protractor has a little mark that you put right on the vertex. And then typically you will put one of the rays of that angle along the base of the vertex. So there'd be another like pretty clear horizontal line on this protractor that's running this way. So the vertex goes there, you put one angle this way, and it's set to measure how open it is with the numbers that are up here. So one thing we could do is, if we look at how it's set up, we start at 0. We're going to go all the way to where it ends right there. Since I start on the bottom number here, I'm going to follow the bottom line, and it seems to go to about 125 degrees. So the measure of angle, in this case we can name it AOB, should be, based on our discussion right there, should be 125 degrees. But we could certainly calculate that other ways as well. If you notice on the top row, this is 180 here, and if I kind of follow that angle, it ends at 55. So very similar to what we did with distances and lengths on segments. I could take those two numbers, and I could go 180 minus the 55. I could even put it in absolute value if we want to make that connection. So that would also get me the 125. Or just like with our discussion on distance or length, I could go in absolute value 55 minus 180. Okay, that would actually get me negative 125, but in absolute value, which ends up with positive 125. So there's a couple ways that I could figure that out. I think the first one, where you just look at it and start at 0 and go that way, that's probably the easiest. Okay, let's do one more example here before maybe I pause the video. Let's look at this picture right here. So again, we'll erase some stuff. There we go. So now we want to find the measure of COD, angle COD. And this one's a little bit harder because the vertex is set up at that important point on the protractor, but one of the rays is not set up on this kind of baseline here. So now I need to use the method that I was just talking about. One thing I don't like about this picture is in this area, it really does not line up well with numbers. Let's just pretend it's going through the 30 and the 150 right there. Okay, let's just say it was adjusted a little bit. So if we wanted to find the angle, I could either use numbers from the bottom. So I have 30 on the bottom there, and the angle ends at 135. So one way to figure out the measure of angle COD is to take those two numbers and just subtract again. So 135 minus 30, we said, that gets us 105. Or I could look at the numbers that are on the top. So maybe it starts here at 45 and goes all the way to maybe 150, it looks like. Is that correct? Start 45 to 150. And again, if I subtract those, 150 minus 45, I still get the answer of 105. And here I'm not really worried about absolute value. Like, I could be very mathy about this and say that's how technically we're going to show that work, but I think that kind of makes sense to us as well. So in the end, to be very proper here, the measure of angle COD is 105 degrees. That's the symbol we use for degrees. I maybe omitted that earlier in this lesson. So I'm going to pause there, let you maybe answer a few questions, jot down anything that doesn't quite make sense, and we'll pick this up in our next video.